Hey, how you doing? It's Clayton Teeney from the First Home Buyer Club. 100 lessons in 100 days, day 66, lesson 66. Today, what I wanted to talk about is spec homes versus custom or project homes. So, the first thing I want to talk about before I really elaborate is what is a spec home, and the actual definition of a spec home I didn't know until I googled up a speculative home, which is when the builder speculates that the house that he's going to build with their level of inclusions he includes when he builds it is going to sell for a profit. So, there's a really good point in that part that you need to understand. The builder is building a new home to make profit. And as a result, he's trying to, I wouldn't say cut corners, but definitely make sure that he doesn't overcapitalize or overspend when he actually does build that home, because he doesn't want to have to worry about losing money later on. So the simplest way to really think about it is he's putting in the bare minimum that's required to get that house sold at the highest possible figure that he can get, right? And when you think about that, you'll understand that it's probably not always weighed in your favor as much as what it's led to believe. Now, according to Google, spec homes are a cheaper home for you to buy because they're buying things in bulk and they're not having to change plans and they're buying the same materials. Well, that doesn't really work out, right? Because here's the problem. If you're only building 1, 2, or 3 homes in a year, that builder is not buying all the materials for all those homes in the same hit. And then if you multiply it and think, okay, what about if a builder does 10, 20, 30, 40, or 50 spec homes over the year? He's still not buying all the material at once. That's got to suddenly get a massive discount on the price, right? So understand that you're not going to get exactly what you're after. All right, I'm going to talk about the pros and cons of spec homes, just so you can understand it and you can really help yourself weigh up a decision that is either going to be for the best or the worst for yourself. Now, part of the reason why I want to talk about spec homes versus custom build homes today is, if you noticed on our stories, today we did a handover for Jeny and Sunny in their lucky brand new home. And literally weeks before we spoke to them the last time, they were in the process of buying a spec home through a builder developer. Now, just to understand the background and what's motivated me to talk more about it today was that the house that they were looking at purchasing was literally exactly by GPS 6 minutes from where they were to where they are right now. Yet the difference in that was nearly $70,000 in one price and 2 inclusions. So when you add all that, and as I explained it and I wrote it down and I showed them point by point why they shouldn't buy a spec home, so you understand, I could have actually got them the spec home in that development through the developer, but I recommended they didn't go to that development with the spec home because of what it lacked in the house itself and the level of inclusions. So I'm now going to talk about the pros and cons and what I've identified so that you can make those decisions for yourself. Obviously, the biggest pro with buying a spec home is it's already completed, right? It's done, it's dusted, it's there, the keys are ready. As soon as you get finance, you're in. One of the biggest tips, the biggest advantages. The second one that's pretty good is obviously you have more finance options based off a spec home because it's already completed. So there's a lot more access to second tier lenders and lower deposit options, but generally will come through second tier lenders that you have available to you when it's already built, compared to a construction loan. Is that right or wrong? That I'm definitely not one to say that that's why you should jump in, because with anything, second tier lenders tend to pay a little bit. You tend to pay a little bit higher interest rate. Another advantage is that obviously it's already done, it's ready, the finance is quicker, so inside of it there's a lot less hassle. And then you got to think about the hassle side of things. if you're a stressor or you get concerned or easily, or you worry, then maybe a spec home might be for you, because you don't have to worry about, today episode where your builder goes bust, or it takes 2 months longer to build, or any of that crazy stuff, because you're not having to think about it. So they're probably the biggest benefits that I can think of jumping into a spec home in order to get into the market quicker. Now, what are some cons of getting into a spec home? I'm going to make sure I don't forget all these, because I just wrote them down quickly. Well, one of the first cons, and one of the biggest ones, is you literally get no choice or no involvement in regards to that house. You can't choose the layout. You can't choose the inclusions. You can't make changes because it's already done. It's just, here it is. You either take it or leave it. The second con is that you'll tend to pay a lot more money for a spec home than you will if you build it yourself. And here's the reasons why, right? No one wants to work for free, nor does someone want to lose money just for the sake of you getting your own home. So all the costs that cost the builder to build that house, he's going to want to recoup that. All the money that he's then lost, not only is he wanting to recoup that, but he wants some sort of return. So if he spends 20 grand on just cost and holding costs and things to worry about while it's there, he's going to want another 25 to cover that and a little bit more. Now, it's not your fault if the builder just decides that he only wants to build a couple of homes a year and it takes him the full 6 months to build. So why should you have to pay top dollar for a lower inclusion? The other one, when it comes to inclusions, you do and you will get often a lower level of inclusions included in the house, because again, he's not going to want to put the highest end inclusion in that house and then wonder, has he spent 10, 20, 30 grand too much on that house just for you to buy it? Another con is that you can't have any input in the house itself. So it's done, it's dusted, it's there. You also can't have any input into the location or the size of the block for that matter when building. It's literally, this is it. No other choice, right? And one last one I'll wrap up for the cons. One thing that really sticks out is that when a builder builds a spec home, he tends to stick to similar plans over and over again. Now, if you go into a development where the developer is also the builder, guess what? There might be 5 to 10 different variances, and the front might look slightly different along the street, but they're same level of inclusions over and over again. Very bare minimum. And as a result, when you're trying to sell that later on down the track, 5, 10, 15 years, whenever that point is, what separates you from the next person? And that's why I really hate units. I own a townhouse. So when I say I hate townhouses, I don't hate townhouses, but the problem with units and townhouses are they're literally exactly the same. So if you got to think about it as an investor or someone that's trying to sell that later on, what differentiates you from the next person? Not only for selling it, but then also you got to take considerations of what about the fact when you're trying to rent it out and you're competing against your neighbor or someone just down from you, and you're literally the same. The only way you can win when it gets to that point is you lower the price. Now, the benefit of buying property is that we hope that we're creating wealth for our future. And if you're just having to drop your pants and just lower the cost all the time just to get someone in, it's probably not the right option for you. When it comes to property, and you would have heard me say it over and over again, though, don't just rely on capital growth to create wealth. And what you need to understand, especially if it's in your own home, is you can make just as much money through paying off that mortgage faster than what you can do in capital growth in some areas. Because if you knuckle down and, an extra $1, $2, $3, $4, even $500 a week in repayments, that could be as much as $26,000 a year, which in itself could save you anywhere between $30,000 to $50,000 in interest. Because everyone knows even you pay a lot more interest than what you do principal. So if you borrow at $400,000, by the time you're paying it off at $600 to $680, depends on if you're up to a 4% interest rate. And again, that's, if you think about 4% interest rate, you're paying back somewhere in the vicinity of $290,000 in interest. If you could halve the time it takes you to pay off that mortgage, you'd probably save $100,000+ in interest. But then more importantly, you've got 15 years plus where you don't have a mortgage, that now you can invest that money that you would have had to give to the bank into whatever you want. Holidays, gifts, future investments, whatever you choose. Now, again, I'm going to lead this back to why I wanted to talk about it today and what we found with Jeny and Sunny, and because we had a bit of a laugh about it when we were at the house, was that when we compared apples for apples, there was a major differences between the house that they could have bought that was already complete to our house. Now, the only difference was like 5 months of construction and finance, literally. Actually, it was 4 months because the month of finance would have taken its time anyway. So when you think about it, you're like, when do we ever really need a rush to do something right on that day? Like when you plan everything in life, you always get a better result. Think about that. So, like with Jeny and Sunny, we're able to, for a better price, they got a 1,200 front door. They got raised ceilings. They got full render, so it's smooth concrete the entire way of the house. Full security screens on all the doors and windows, which you think that's not much until someone tries to charge you $5 or $10 grand. The 2 aircon units, which there wasn't included before. The walk-in pantry. The extra linen cupboards, the walk-in robes, the separate toilets, the niches in the showers, the water point for the fridge, the upgraded tiles, the upgraded carpets, and then the list goes on. And when we actually put a figure next to every point that they would have had to pay, it was nearly $70,000. It's like 69,000 something, right? Now, that is a lot of money just to rush to get and save yourself 4 months. So I would really urge you, yes, we are in November, and I'm trying to think, I think we're the 14th or 15th today, and home build, I think we've got about 46, 47 days left. Yes, there's not that much time, but that doesn't mean you buy a bad investment, because if it's your own home or an investment property, it's still an investment, and you need to look at it that way. If you're planning on buying a property knowing that you're going to lose money out of this, you might as well call it a car. All right, guys. I hope you have a good weekend. Happy Saturday. Talk to you later. Bye.